Arizona Territory, 1887. A box canyon 20 feet wide at its narrowest, walls rising 100 feet straight up, and wind that locals said could throw a man like a sack of grain. One prospector entered anyway, 75 pounds of supplies on his back, trusting desert experience over town advice. The miners laughed. They called crawling through country meant to be crossed, standing the mark of a coward. Move fast through bad ground, they said. Stay upright. Keep your gear visible. Then the downdraft hit, 50 to 70 miles per hour, compressed through stone like water through a funnel. It ripped his pack off a ledge and sent it tumbling 40 feet down canyon. Standard practice said chase it standing. He dropped flat instead. Built a stone windbreak 18 inches high. Crawled forward at knee height, moving only during 10-second lulls. Progress slowed to a quarter mile per hour, but he stayed anchored while the canyon finished its tantrum. Hours later, he found his pack, secured beneath a rock shelf, weighted with stones, bacon-wrapped, flour-dry. Someone else sheltering higher up had quietly saved his supplies without a word. Within 10 years, stone windshields appeared at every choke point, and desert prospectors were teaching each other to go low when the canyon winds came. What did he understand about wind, friction, and survival that the fastest men never learned? And why did the method they mocked become the one that kept travelers alive? If you value real history with lessons, subscribe. Comment your city and time so we know where this reached. The canyon opened like a knife cut through red sandstone, barely 20 feet across where the walls pinched tightest, and the prospector could see boot prints in the dust where others had turned back. He'd left the mining camp at Prescott 3 days earlier with 75 pounds on his back. Canvas bedroll, pickaxe, gold pan, 10 pounds of flour, 8 pounds of bacon, and 2 canteens that weighed 6 pounds each when full. The outfitter had warned him twice about the Box Canyon route. Wind comes through there like God's own bellows, the man said, coiling rope behind the counter. Throws men right off their feet. You want the ridge trail instead. Takes an extra day, but you stay upright. The prospector thanked him and bought the flour anyway. He'd crossed the Sonoran twice on foot and knew that advice from men who slept indoors every night carried a different weight than experience earned at ground level where heat, cold, and wind did their actual work. The downdraft hit without warning halfway through the canyon. A roar that started high above and compressed into a fist of air moving at 60 miles per hour. The prospector had set his pack upright against a boulder while he scouted the next 100 yards of passage, and the wind caught it like canvas sail. It lifted, tumbled, and disappeared over a ledge 30 feet down canyon before he could move. He watched flour dust scatter white against red stone. The pack held everything: food, water, bedroll, tools. Daytime temperatures out here climbed past 95 degrees, and night cold dropped below 40. Chasing it upright meant fighting wind that could knock a man sideways or worse, over an edge where the canyon floor dropped away in shelves. He'd seen what happened to men who tried to muscle through weather instead of working underneath it. So he dropped flat, chest to dust, and felt the wind scream 2 feet above his head while the ground stayed almost still. He started stacking stones within arm's reach, building a crescent windbreak 18 inches high on the upwind side. Loose rock lay everywhere in the canyon bottom, chunks of sandstone ranging from fist size to 20 pounds, fractured by frost and heat over centuries. He placed the heavier pieces at the base and filled gaps with smaller stones, working flat on his belly while gusts tore at his hat. When the wall stood solid, he dragged his leather saddle behind it. The saddle weighed 35 pounds and added mass the wind couldn't shift. He wedged himself into the lee space where the air went still, and the difference was immediate. Wind screaming overhead while his breathing stayed steady. Movement would come during the lulls, 10 to 20 seconds when the canyon paused between blasts. He'd crawl forward no higher than 12 inches off the ground, staying below where friction slowed the air to something a man could work against. Progress slowed to a quarter-mile per hour, but survival had replaced speed as the measure that mattered. The prospector moved only when the wind dropped, crawling forward with his chest nearly touching stone, then flattening again when the next gust built. At ground level, friction from the canyon floor broke the wind's force. Even violent downdrafts lost more than half their power in the lowest 18 inches, where rock and dust created drag. Standing men would have been knocked sideways or thrown against walls. The miners back in Prescott had called this cowardice. Crawling through country meant to be crossed upright. But their advice came from camp routines and short distances between buildings, not from hours spent in open desert where the land made the rules. He kept his canteen strapped tight and his hat pulled low, moving in bursts, resting behind any rock that offered shelter. Letting the canyon finish its tantrum while he stayed anchored. He found the pack 3 hours later, tucked beneath a rock shelf 5 feet deep where the canyon wall curved inward. The wind couldn't reach it there. The overhang created a pocket of dead air shielded from the main channel. But what stopped him wasn't the location. Someone had weighted the pack with stones, 4 flat pieces of sandstone placed carefully across the canvas to hold it down. The bacon was wrapped tight in its oilcloth. The flour sack sat upright, dry, and sealed. His bedroll had been rolled tighter and tied with cord he didn't recognize. Another prospector or scout, sheltering somewhere higher up the canyon, had seen the pack tumble and secured it without showing himself. It was common enough practice in mining country, help quietly given to avoid conflict over claims or water rights. The crawling method had kept the prospector's strength intact, his water unspilled, his body temperature steady, enough to exit by morning. Word traveled through the mining camps faster than any letter could carry it. Within a year, prospectors crossing that canyon were building low stone windbreaks at the narrowest passages, and the advice shifted from move fast and stay upright to go low when the wind comes. By 1895, stone crescents marked every choke point where the walls pinched tight, some still visible more than a century later, when hikers wondered who stacked them and why they never stood higher than 2 feet. The method wasn't written in guidebooks or taught in mining schools, but it spread through demonstration and necessity. Men who survived taught men who listened, and the ones who didn't listen learned or left. Later studies of canyon aerodynamics confirmed what the prospector had trusted through experience. Wind velocity dropped by 60% or more within the lowest 18 inches of confined terrain. And friction from stone surfaces created boundary layers where air slowed enough for a man to hold position. On the frontier, the ones who survived longest were not the fastest or the strongest, but the ones who understood when to stay low and let the land finish its tantrum.